Hello, garden friends. Welcome back to the potting shed. Grab a cup of tea and just take a deep breath with me. It's late afternoon here, and the golden hour light is catching the dust motes dancing in the air. The smell of damp, rich soil is clinging to my apron, and honestly, there is nowhere I'd rather be. Today, we're going to talk about something incredibly special. We're going to talk about building a stunning, vibrant flower garden and doing it entirely on a grocery store budget. There is a pervasive myth in gardening that to have a breathtaking, magazine-worthy landscape, you need to spend hundreds of dollars on premium nursery stock or fancy boutique seed catalogues. I wanted to gently challenge that. So, armed with a handful of $1 seed packets I picked up next to the checkout aisle, I started an experiment. And let me tell you, the results have been nothing short of magical. Beautiful gardens aren't born from expensive receipts. They are born from a little bit of knowledge and a lot of patience. By the end of our time together today, you'll know exactly how to turn those humble paper packets into a thriving floral paradise. You see, the genetics inside a sunflower seed are exactly the same whether the packet costs 99 cents at the supermarket or $5 from a catalogue. Viability is all about how the seeds were stored, not the prestige of the brand name on the front. So, let's let go of the idea that we need a huge budget, and let's get our hands dirty together, starting with the plants themselves. To guarantee success, especially if you are a beginner, we need to rely on incredibly resilient, frost-free summer annuals. I call them the core four: Zinnias, cosmos, marigolds, and sunflowers. These lovely plants are what botanists consider highly adaptable. They are forgiving of our little beginner mistakes. They thrive in USDA zones 2 through 11, provided they have a long, frost-free summer. And best of all, they are obligate full sun lovers, meaning they just want to bask in 6 to 8 hours of direct, glorious sunlight every day. When you grow zinnias, like the cut-and-come-again varieties, you'll notice their foliage is rough, almost like soft sandpaper. Their stems are sturdy and covered in tiny microscopic hairs, holding up matte, velvet-like petals that fade from scarlet to sun-bleached coral. Cosmos, on the other hand, are delicate and feathery. Their thread-like leaves create a soft green haze in the garden, and their papery blooms literally dance with the slightest summer breeze. It's a beautiful contrast of strength and delicacy, all for the cost of spare change. Then we have our structural giants, the sunflowers. Their thick, bristly stalks look architectural, lifting up massive golden heads. If you look closely at the center of a sunflower, you'll see hundreds of perfect spirals dusted in ochre pollen. At their feet, we plant marigolds, like the Sparky mix. Marigolds have a deeply herbaceous, pungent scent. Some find it sharp, but I love it. And more importantly, pests hate it. That unique fragrance acts as an invisible shield, deterring harmful nematodes from the roots of your other delicate flowers. Before we can sow those seeds, we have to prepare their bed. And don't worry, you don't need expensive tilling machines. We are using the no-till method. Simply lay down ordinary untaped corrugated cardboard directly over your existing grass or bare dirt. We then cover that cardboard with 3 to 4 inches of municipal compost or low-cost topsoil. That cardboard acts as a dark blanket, starving existing weed seeds of the light they desperately need to sprout. It's a gentle, quiet way to reclaim a patch of earth for your beautiful new garden. As that cardboard breaks down, it invites earthworms up to the surface. They do all the hard tilling work for you, naturally improving the soil's structure. You want your soil to feel exactly like a freshly squeezed kitchen sponge, cool to the touch, dark espresso in colour, and perfectly friable. Friable is just a fancy gardening word that means it crumbles effortlessly between your thumb and index finger. It shouldn't smear like wet clay. When the soil feels like that, you know your seeds are going to be so happy. Now for the exciting part, putting the seeds in the ground. But wait until the soil has truly warmed up. A good rule of thumb is when soil temperatures are consistently above 65 degrees Fahrenheit at a 2-inch depth. Sowing seeds in cold, wet dirt just invites fungal issues that can rot them before they even wake up. There's another myth we need to bust here. You do not have to start all your seeds indoors under expensive grow lights. For these fast-growing annuals, direct sowing right into the garden bed is actually much better. You see, plants like sunflowers and zinnias develop what is called a primary taproot. It's an aggressive, downward-reaching root. If you start them indoors in tiny plastic cells and that taproot hits the plastic bottom, it sends a stress signal to the plant. This causes permanent stunting, which we call transplant shock. They will stop growing and bloom prematurely with tiny, sad flowers. Direct sowing outdoors allows them to send that taproot as deep as they want, developing massive, healthy root networks without ever experiencing that stressful shock. When you direct sow, depth is everything. A general rule is to plant a seed about 2 to 3 times its own width. For tiny cosmos and marigold seeds, that means just barely a 1/4 inch below the surface. Zinnias go a bit deeper, at 1/2 inch, and those chunky sunflower seeds can go down a full inch. If you plant a tiny seed too deeply, it will exhaust all of its stored energy trying to push through the heavy soil, and it will die before it ever sees the sun. Just give them a light dusting of soil and a gentle pat to ensure good contact. Now, we have to talk about the hardest part of gardening for beginners. Let's talk about thinning. I know exactly how much it hurts. You've watered and nurtured these tiny green babies, and now I'm asking you to cull some of them. But about 3 weeks after they sprout, when their true ruffled leaves appear, we absolutely have to give them space. Take a pair of clean micro snips, choose the strongest seedlings to keep, and gently snip the smaller ones right at the soil line. Please don't pull them up, as that can disturb the roots of the ones left behind. Why do we do this? Well, zinnias and marigolds need about 9 to 12 inches of space between them. Cosmos need 12 to 18, and sunflowers need almost 2 feet. If we let them grow overcrowded, they create a dense, humid microclimate with zero airflow. That is a guaranteed recipe for powdery mildew, a white, talcum powder-like fungus that will coat the leaves and weaken the whole bed. They will stretch upwards, thin and weak, fighting each other for sunlight. Proper spacing feels cruel at first, but it is the ultimate act of garden care. As your zinnias and cosmos reach about a foot tall, we perform another little act of tough love called pinching. Using your fingers or snips, simply pinch off the top 2 inches of the central stem, right above a set of leaves. I know, we are removing the very first flower bud. But here is the magic. That top bud produces a hormone that stops side branches from growing. By removing it, the plant redirects its energy outward, turning into a bushy, multi-stemmed powerhouse. You will literally multiply your floral yield by 300% just by doing this. Later in the summer, as your flowers start to fade and wilt, you'll want to deadhead them. This just means snipping off the spent, tired blooms. A flower's only goal in life is to make seeds. Once a bloom fades and starts forming seeds, it sends hormonal signals to the plant to stop flowering. When we meticulously remove those fading blooms, we interrupt that signal. We trick the plant into thinking its job isn't done yet, forcing it back into continuous cycles of fresh, vibrant blooming all summer long. As our garden grows, we might run into some bumps along the road. The most common beginner mistake is what I call the too much love error, which usually means nitrogen toxicity. It happens when we generously apply heavy, synthetic lawn fertilizers to our flower beds. Our core 4 flowers actually prefer low nitrogen. If they get too much, they will produce massive, dark, green, succulent leaves, but absolutely zero flowers. They abandon reproduction entirely. A balanced, mild, organic compost is usually all they need. Remember, they want to bloom. We just have to stay out of their way. Another common hiccup is shallow watering, or what I like to call sprinkler syndrome. It's tempting to stand out there and mist the garden for 5 minutes every evening. But if you do that, the water only penetrates the top inch of soil, and the plants will only grow shallow roots. On the first truly hot day of summer, those plants will suffer severe wilting because they have no deep root architecture to access the moisture stored deeper down. We want a wet to dry cycle. Water deeply, soaking the soil, and then let it breathe and dry out a bit before you water again. Finally, please don't despair if you see pests. Aphids might cluster on the tender new growth, or you might see the crispy brown edges of environmental scorch during a heatwave. This is completely normal. The garden is a living ecosystem, not a sterile living room. A few chewed leaves are just signs that your garden is providing life. Often, if we just step back and wait, beneficial predators like ladybugs will arrive to balance things out. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is beauty, resilience, and the joy of watching things grow from tiny seeds we brought home in grocery bags. As the sun finally dips below the tree line, the garden takes on a completely different feeling. The air above the cosmos carries a subtle, dusty, sweet aroma of pollen. You might hear the heavy, erratic drone of a native bumblebee. Watch as it lands on a brightly coloured zinnia, the flower dipping under its weight. Its gentle buzzing shakes the pollen loose, coating its little legs in bright yellow dust. It's moments like this, standing quietly amid the life you cultivated for just a few dollars, that make all the effort profoundly worth it. Thank you so much for spending this quiet afternoon with me in the garden. I would absolutely love to hear what is growing in your soil right now, so please leave a note in the comments below. If you enjoyed our time together, consider subscribing for more cozy garden chats. Take care of yourselves, take care of your soil, and happy growing.